You know what's absolutely wild? Right now, as you're lying there listening to this, your body is performing about 37 trillion cellular operations per second. Yeah, you heard that right? Trillion. With a T, and you're not even thinking about it. You're just existing, breathing, being. Tonight, we're going on a journey through the most fascinating machine in the known universe. Your body. Not in some boring textbook way, but like you're drifting through it, discovering all these incredible things happening inside you right now, in this very moment. No need to take notes. No quiz at the end. Just close your eyes, get comfortable, and let's explore together. The human body is basically 7 octillion atoms all working together to create you. That's a 7 with 27 zeros after it. These atoms didn't have to come together this way. They could have been scattered across the cosmos, part of distant stars, or floating in some nebula. But instead, they formed you. They're reading these words right now. They're thinking about themselves. How weird is that? Let's start with something simple. Your skin. The thing you're probably most familiar with because, well, it's the only organ you can actually see. Your skin is your body's largest organ, weighing about 8 pounds and covering roughly 22 square feet if you're an average adult. But it's not just sitting there being a wrapper. Right now, your skin is fighting off millions of bacteria, regulating your temperature, and sending your brain about 11 million bits of information every single second. Every minute, you're shedding about 30,000 dead skin cells. That's roughly 40 pounds of skin in your lifetime. Most of the dust in your house, that's you. You're literally leaving pieces of yourself everywhere you go. But don't worry. Your skin completely replaces itself about every 28 days. You're basically wearing a new suit every month. Under that skin, you've got about 650 muscles. The smallest one is in your ear, the stapedius muscle, and it's only about 1 millimeter long. Its job is to stabilize the smallest bone in your body, which we'll get to later. The biggest muscle? That's your gluteus maximus, your butt muscle. It makes sense when you think about it. Humans are basically the only mammals that walk upright all the time, so we need some serious muscle power to keep us standing. Your muscles make up about 40% of your body weight, and here's something cool. They're always working. Even when you think you're completely still, thousands of tiny muscle fibers are making micro adjustments to keep you balanced. It's like your body is constantly playing an incredibly complex game of Jenga with itself. Now, let's talk about bones. You've got 206 of them as an adult, but you were born with about 300. Don't worry, you didn't lose them. Many of them just fused together as you grew. Your bones aren't dead, solid things like you might imagine. They're actually living tissue, constantly breaking down and rebuilding themselves. The skeleton you have right now is completely different from the skeleton you had 10 years ago. Every 7 years or so, you get a completely new skeleton. Inside your bones, something magical is happening. Your bone marrow is producing about 2 million red blood cells every single second. 2 million. Every second. That's a 173 billion per day. And each one of those red blood cells will live for about 120 days, traveling through your body, delivering oxygen before it gets recycled and turned into new cells. Your bones are also incredibly strong. Pound for pound, bone is stronger than steel. A cubic inch of bone can theoretically support 19,000 pounds of weight. That's about the weight of 5 pickup trucks. The femur, your thigh bone, is the longest and strongest bone in your body. It would take about 4,000 pounds of force to break it. But here's what really gets me. Your bones are piezoelectric. That means when you put pressure on them, they generate tiny electrical charges. Your body actually uses these electrical signals to know where to build more bone tissue. Go for a run, and your bones literally sense the impact and strengthen themselves in response. Your skeleton is smart. Let's drift down to something smaller now. Your cells. You've got about 37.2 trillion of them, and they're all working right now. They're reading DNA, making proteins, converting sugar into energy, dividing, communicating with each other through chemical signals. It's like a microscopic city inside you, and every cell is both a resident and a worker. Each cell contains about 6 feet of DNA, all coiled up impossibly tight. If you stretched out all the DNA in your body end to end, it would reach from Earth to the Sun and back about 300 times. That's roughly 100 trillion miles of genetic code, all packed inside you. Let's follow your blood for a while. Right now, your heart is beating. You probably weren't thinking about it until I mentioned it, but there it is. A steady rhythm that's been going since before you were born. Your heart is about the size of your fist, weighs less than a pound, and it's the hardest working muscle in your entire body. Every day, your heart beats about 100,000 times. That's 35 million beats per year. If you live to 80, your heart will have beaten about 2.8 billion times. And here's the thing, it never stops to rest, never takes a break, never calls in sick. From the moment it starts beating in the womb until the moment it stops, it just keeps going. Each beat pumps about 2 ounces of blood. Doesn't sound like much, right? But multiply that by 100,000 beats per day, and your heart is pumping about 2,000 gallons of blood every single day. That's enough to fill a small swimming pool every week. In your lifetime, your heart will pump about 1.5 million barrels of blood, enough to fill 200 train tank cars. Your blood is making a complete circuit through your body right now. The journey takes about 60 seconds. In that minute, your blood leaves your heart, travels through your arteries, gets smaller and smaller vessels until it reaches the tiniest capillaries, exchanges oxygen and nutrients with your cells, picks up carbon dioxide and waste products, travels back through your veins, and returns to your heart. Then it does it all over again. You've got about 60,000 miles of blood vessels in your body. That's enough to wrap around Earth more than twice. If you laid out all your capillaries end to end, they'd stretch for about 25,000 miles by themselves. These capillaries are so thin that red blood cells have to line up single file to pass through them. They're literally 1 cell wide. Your blood itself is fascinating. It makes up about 7 to 8% of your body weight. That's roughly 10 pints for an average adult. Blood is thick, about 4 times thicker than water. And it's warm, maintaining a temperature of about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. But blood isn't just blood. It's a complex mixture of cells, proteins, and dissolved substances, all floating in a liquid called plasma. Plasma makes up about 55% of your blood volume. It's mostly water, but it's carrying hundreds of different substances: nutrients, hormones, proteins, waste products. Plasma is your body's delivery service and garbage collection system all rolled into one. Then you've got your red blood cells, those 173 billion that are being made every day. They're shaped like little donuts without a hole, which gives them maximum surface area for carrying oxygen. Each red blood cell contains about 270 million molecules of hemoglobin, and each hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 oxygen molecules. Do the math, and a single red blood cell can carry over 1 billion oxygen molecules. Your white blood cells are the defenders. You've got several different types, each with its own specialty. Some are like scouts, patrolling your body looking for invaders. Others are like soldiers, attacking anything foreign they find. Some are memory cells, keeping a record of every pathogen you've ever encountered so your body can respond faster if it shows up again. Your immune system has a better memory than you do. Right now, even as you rest, your white blood cells are fighting off infections you don't even know about. Every day, you're exposed to countless bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens. Most of them never make you sick because your immune system destroys them before they can get established. You're winning battles inside your body constantly, and you're not even aware of it. Platelets are the body's repair crew. When you get a cut, platelets rush to the scene within seconds and start forming a plug to stop the bleeding. They're releasing chemicals that activate clotting factors in your blood, creating a mesh of proteins that traps blood cells and forms a scab. The whole process is incredibly complex, involving dozens of different proteins all working in sequence. If any one of them is missing or faulty, you can have serious bleeding problems. Your blood type, AB, AB, or O, positive or negative, depends on specific proteins on the surface of your red blood cells. These blood types evolved over thousands of years, and scientists still aren't entirely sure why we have different types. Type O negative is the universal donor, because it doesn't have any of these surface proteins, so nobody's immune system will reject it. Type AB positive is the universal receiver, because people with this type have all the proteins, so their immune system won't attack blood with any combination of them. Blood pressure is the force of your blood pushing against your artery walls. When your doctor gives you two numbers, like 120/80, the first number is the pressure when your heart contracts and pushes blood out. That's systolic pressure. The second number is the pressure when your heart relaxes and fills back up with blood. That's diastolic pressure. These pressures change constantly throughout the day, going up when you're active or stressed, going down when you're calm or sleeping. Take a deep breath. Do it right now. Feel that? That's about half a liter of air flowing into your lungs. You do that about 20,000 times per day without thinking about it. That's roughly 11,000 liters of air, enough to fill 50 bathtubs, flowing in and out of your body every single day. Your respiratory system starts with your nose, and your nose is way more sophisticated than you probably realize. Inside your nose, you've got about 5 million olfactory receptors spread across an area about the size of a postage stamp. These receptors can detect about 1 trillion different scents. That's not a typo. 1 trillion. Your nose is more sensitive than any machine we've ever built. But your nose isn't just for smelling. It's also an air conditioning system. Every breath you take gets warmed to body temperature and humidified to about 95% humidity before it reaches your lungs. Whether you're breathing Arctic air at 40 below zero or desert air at 120 degrees, by the time that air gets to your lungs, it's a comfortable 98.6 degrees. Your nose does this automatically, constantly, without you ever thinking about it. The air then flows past your pharynx and larynx, your throat and voice box. Your larynx contains your vocal cords, which are really just folds of tissue that vibrate when air passes over them. Men's vocal cords vibrate about 125 times per second when speaking. Women's vibrate about 200 times per second. That's how we produce sound. Then the air enters your trachea, your windpipe. The trachea is lined with millions of tiny hairs called cilia, and these cilia are constantly beating upward in waves, moving mucus and trapped particles up and out of your lungs. They beat about 1,000 times per minute. It's like a microscopic escalator running 24/7, keeping your airways clean. Your trachea splits into 2 bronchi, one for each lung. These bronchi keep branching and branching, getting smaller and smaller, like a tree growing upside down inside your chest. By the time you get down to the smallest branches, the bronchioles, you've got about 30,000 of them. And at the end of each bronchiole are clusters of tiny air sacs called alveoli. You've got about 300 million alveoli in your lungs. If you spread them all out flat, they'd cover about 70 square meters, roughly the size of a tennis court. All this surface area is packed into your chest, wrapped around your heart, fitting perfectly between your ribs. The alveoli are where the magic happens. Each alveolus is surrounded by capillaries, and the walls separating the air in the alveolus from the blood in the capillary are incredibly thin, about 50 times thinner than a piece of tissue paper. Oxygen passes through this membrane into your blood, and carbon dioxide passes from your blood into the alveolus to be exhaled. This exchange happens with every breath. Let's talk about the 30-foot journey your food takes through your body. It's actually one of the most fascinating trips you can imagine, and it starts the moment you even think about food. Your mouth produces about a liter of saliva every day. Right now, you've got saliva in your mouth, and you're probably going to swallow after I mention it. That saliva isn't just water. It contains enzymes that start breaking down your food before you even swallow. The enzyme amylase begins digesting carbohydrates instantly. If you chew a piece of bread long enough, it starts tasting sweet as the amylase breaks the starches down into sugars. You've got taste buds all over your tongue. And contrary to that tongue map you might have learned in school, they can all taste all 5 basic tastes: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. Umami is that savory, meaty taste. It's what makes mushrooms and soy sauce taste so good. You've got about 10,000 taste buds, and each one contains 50 to 100 taste receptor cells. When you swallow, something remarkable happens. Your epiglottis, a little flap of tissue, closes off your windpipe so food goes down your esophagus instead of your trachea. This happens automatically, but it's incredibly precise. Food and air share the same passageway at the back of your throat, and your body has to direct traffic perfectly every single time. You swallow about 600 times a day, and usually it works flawlessly. Your esophagus is about 10 inches long, and food doesn't just fall down it. Muscles in the esophagus contract in waves, pushing food downward. This is called peristalsis, and it's so effective that you could eat standing on your head and food would still make it to your stomach. Astronauts can eat in zero gravity because of peristalsis. Then the food reaches your stomach, a J-shaped organ that can stretch to hold about half a gallon of food and liquid. Your stomach is basically a muscular bag that churns and mixes your food with gastric juices. These juices are incredibly acidic. Your stomach acid has a pH between 1.5 and 3.5, which is strong enough to dissolve metal. So why doesn't your stomach digest itself? Your stomach lining produces about 1.5 liters of mucus every day. This mucus forms a protective barrier between the acid and the stomach wall. Your stomach lining also completely replaces itself every 3 to 4 days. The cells in your stomach lining are some of the fastest reproducing cells in your body because they're constantly being destroyed by acid and need to be replaced. Food typically stays in your stomach for 2 to 4 hours, getting broken down into a thick liquid called chyme. Then it moves into your small intestine, which is actually the longest part of your digestive tract. Despite being called small, it's about 20 feet long. It's called small because it's narrower than the large intestine, not because it's shorter. The small intestine is where most of your nutrient absorption happens. The inside isn't smooth. It's covered with millions of tiny finger-like projections called villi, and each villus is covered with even tinier projections called microvilli. This creates an enormous surface area, about 250 square meters, roughly the size of a tennis court. All this surface area is packed into your abdomen, folded and coiled up impossibly tight. Now let's drift up to the most complex structure in the known universe, your brain. This 3-pound mass of tissue sitting in your skull is more intricate than any computer, any machine, any technology we've ever created. And it's doing all of this. Listening to these words, understanding them, forming thoughts, keeping you breathing, regulating your heartbeat, all at the same time. Your brain contains about 86 billion neurons. That's more neurons than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Each neuron can connect to thousands of other neurons, creating trillions of connections called synapses. The number of possible neural pathways in your brain is greater than the number of atoms in the universe. Your brain is literally more complex than the cosmos. Right now, your neurons are firing. They're sending electrical signals racing through your brain at speeds up to 268 miles per hour. These signals jump from neuron to neuron across synapses. And at each synapse, the electrical signal triggers the release of chemicals called neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters float across the tiny gap between neurons and bind to receptors on the next neuron, continuing the signal. Your brain uses about 20% of your body's total energy, even though it only makes up about 2% of your body weight. It's burning through about 20 watts of power right now, about enough to power a dim light bulb. That might not sound like much, but when you consider that your brain never turns off, never rests, that adds up to about 2,000 calories per month just to keep your brain running. The brain is divided into different regions, each with specialized functions. The cerebrum is the largest part, the wrinkly gray matter you picture when you think of a brain. It's divided into 2 hemispheres, left and right, connected by a bundle of about 200 million nerve fibers called the corpus callosum. These hemispheres communicate constantly, sharing information back and forth. Your frontal lobe, located behind your forehead, is responsible for complex thinking, planning, personality, and behavior. It's what makes you, you. The frontal lobe is the last part of the brain to fully develop. It doesn't finish maturing until you're about 25 years old. That's why teenagers and young adults sometimes make impulsive decisions. Their frontal lobe, the brain's judgment center, is still under construction. The parietal lobe, near the top and back of your head, processes sensory information. It's interpreting the feeling of whatever you're lying on right now, the temperature of the air, the weight of your blanket. The temporal lobes, on the sides of your head above your ears, process sounds and are crucial for memory. The occipital lobe, at the very back of your head, processes vision. Deep inside your brain, there's a structure called the hippocampus. It's shaped like a seahorse, which is what hippocampus means in Greek. This is where your memories are formed. Every experience you have, every person you meet, every word you learn, all of that gets processed by the hippocampus first. The hippocampus decides what's worth remembering and what can be forgotten. It's like a librarian, cataloging information and filing it away for later. Your amygdala is an almond-shaped cluster of neurons deep in your brain's temporal lobe. It's your emotion center, particularly for fear and anxiety. When you watch a scary movie and your heart starts racing, that's your amygdala activating your fight or flight response. It's ancient, one of the oldest parts of the brain evolutionarily, and it reacts before your conscious mind even knows what's happening. The hypothalamus is tiny, about the size of an almond, but it controls an enormous range of functions. It regulates your body temperature, hunger, thirst, sleep, mood, and sex drive. It's also the link between your nervous system and your endocrine system, telling your body when to release hormones. Despite being less than 1% of your brain's total weight, the hypothalamus is arguably the most important structure in your entire body for maintaining homeostasis. Your cerebellum, attached to the back of your brainstem, looks like a mini brain. It has more neurons than the rest of your brain combined. About 50 billion of your brain's 86 billion neurons are in the cerebellum. Its job is to coordinate movement and maintain balance. Every smooth, coordinated movement you make, reaching for something, walking, even the tiny movements of your eyes as you read, all of that is coordinated by the cerebellum. The brainstem is the most ancient part of your brain, sometimes called the reptilian brain, because even reptiles have one. It controls your most basic functions: breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, consciousness. The brainstem is why you keep breathing even when you're asleep. It's running your body's autopilot systems, the functions so critical that they can't be trusted to conscious control. Your brain produces different types of brain waves depending on what you're doing. Beta waves occur when you're awake and alert, concentrating on something. Alpha waves happen when you're relaxed but awake, maybe meditating or daydreaming. As you get drowsy, your brain shifts to theta waves, and when you're in deep sleep, it produces delta waves, the slowest brain waves. Right now, as you listen to this and relax, your brain is probably producing more alpha waves, maybe starting to shift into theta. Your neurons are still firing, but they're starting to fire in sync, creating these slower, more rhythmic waves. It's like an orchestra where all the instruments start playing the same tempo. Sleep is fascinating. Scientists still don't fully understand why we need it, but we definitely do. You spend about a third of your life asleep. If you live to 80, that's 26 years of sleep. But your brain isn't just shutting off during sleep. In some ways, it's more active than when you're awake. During sleep, your brain is consolidating memories, moving them from short-term storage in the hippocampus to long-term storage in the cerebral cortex. It's also clearing out waste products that build up during the day. Your brain has its own waste disposal system called the lymphatic system, and it works primarily while you sleep. Cerebrospinal fluid flows through your brain, washing away proteins and metabolites, keeping your brain clean and healthy. Dreams occur during REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. During REM, your eyes move rapidly back and forth under your eyelids, your heart rate and breathing become irregular, and your brain activity looks almost identical to when you're awake. But your voluntary muscles are temporarily paralyzed, which is probably a good thing, because otherwise you'd act out your dreams physically. Your nervous system is your body's communication network, and it's incredibly fast and incredibly complex. Every sensation you feel, every movement you make, every thought you think, all of it involves your nervous system. The nervous system is divided into two main parts: the central nervous system, which is your brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which is all the nerves branching out from your spinal cord to the rest of your body. Your spinal cord is about 18 inches long in adults, running from the base of your brain down to your lower back. It's about as thick as your thumb, and it contains about 13.5 million neurons. The spinal cord is encased in the vertebrae of your spine, which protect it. Between the vertebrae, Nerves branch off. 31 pairs of spinal nerves connecting your brain to your body. Nerve signals travel through your body as electrical impulses. When you touch something hot, sensory receptors in your skin generate an electrical signal that races up sensory neurons to your spinal cord and brain. Your brain processes this information. That's hot. That hurts. And sends a signal back down motor neurons to your muscles. Pull your hand away. This all happens in a fraction of a second, faster than you can consciously think about it. Actually, for simple reflexes like pulling your hand away from something hot, your brain isn't even involved. The signal from your hand reaches your spinal cord, and the spinal cord itself sends the signal back to your muscles to move. The signal does eventually reach your brain, so you become aware of what happened, but the reflex action happens before your brain knows about it. Your spinal cord can make decisions on its own. You've got 3 types of neurons. Sensory neurons carry information from your senses to your brain and spinal cord. Motor neurons carry instructions from your brain and spinal cord to your muscles. And interneurons, which make up the vast majority of neurons, connect other neurons to each other, processing and integrating information. The autonomic nervous system controls functions you don't consciously think about: your heartbeat, digestion, breathing rate, pupil dilation, and so on. It has 2 divisions that generally work in opposition to each other. The sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight response. It speeds up your heart, increases breathing, redirects blood to your muscles. The parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest response. It slows your heart, increases digestion, promotes relaxation. Right now, your parasympathetic nervous system should be taking over. Your heart rate is slowing down. Your breathing is becoming deeper and more regular. Your muscles are relaxing. Your body is shifting into rest mode, and it's doing all of this automatically without any conscious effort from you. Your nerves themselves are fascinating structures. They're like biological wires, carrying electrical signals throughout your body. The fastest nerves in your body can transmit signals at speeds over 250 miles per hour. The signals traveling from your brain to your big toe have to travel about 4 feet, which takes about 50 milliseconds, 20 times faster than you can blink. Let's explore how you see the world. Your eyes are incredibly sophisticated biological cameras, capable of processing about 10 million bits of information per second. Light enters your eye through the cornea, a clear dome at the front of your eye. The cornea does most of the focusing of incoming light. About 65–75% of your eye's total focusing power comes from the cornea. Then light passes through your pupil, the black circle in the center of your eye. The pupil isn't actually a thing, it's just an opening. The colored part around it, your iris, is a muscle that controls how large the opening is. In bright light, your iris contracts, making your pupil smaller to protect your retina from too much light. In dim light, your iris relaxes, making your pupil larger to let in more light. This happens automatically and constantly as you move between different lighting conditions. Your pupils can change size in less than half a second. Behind the pupil is your lens, a clear, flexible structure that does the fine-tuning of focus. Tiny muscles called ciliary muscles change the shape of the lens, making it fatter to focus on nearby objects and thinner to focus on distant objects. This is called accommodation, and it happens automatically whenever you shift your gaze from something close to something far away, or vice versa. The light then passes through the vitreous humor, a clear gel filling most of your eyeball, and hits the retina at the back of your eye. The retina is where light becomes neural signals. It's about the thickness of a few sheets of paper, but it contains about 130 million photoreceptor cells, 120 million rods, and 67 million cones. Rods are extremely sensitive to light and work best in dim conditions. They can't detect color, but they're great for seeing in low light and detecting motion. This is why in very dim light, everything looks grayish. You're seeing primarily with your rods, which don't process color. Cones work best in bright light and detect color. You have 3 types of cones, each sensitive to different wavelengths of light, roughly corresponding to red, green, and blue. All the colors you see are combinations of signals from these 3 types of cones. If you're missing one type of cone, you're colorblind. If you had a fourth type of cone, you'd see millions of colors that other humans can't see. Some women actually do have 4 types of cones. They're called tetrachromats, and they can see about 100 times more colors than the rest of us. The center of your retina has a small area called the fovea, packed densely with cones. This is your sharpest vision. When you look directly at something, you're pointing your fovea at it. Your peripheral vision is much less detailed and is handled mostly by rods. When light hits your photoreceptors, it triggers a cascade of chemical reactions that generate electrical signals. These signals are processed by other cells in your retina and then transmitted through your optic nerve to your brain. Your optic nerve contains about 1.2 million nerve fibers, each carrying signals from multiple photoreceptors. Here's something weird. The image projected onto your retina is upside down and reversed. But you don't see the world upside down because your brain flips the image right side up when it processes the visual information. Your brain is doing enormous amounts of processing on visual information before you consciously see anything. Your ears are collecting sound waves right now, turning them into electrical signals that your brain interprets as this voice, these words, this information. Sound is just air molecules vibrating. When something makes a sound, whether it's a voice, music, or any noise, it creates pressure waves in the air. These waves spread out in all directions, and when they reach your ear, they set off a chain reaction of mechanics that's honestly pretty incredible. The outer part of your ear, the pinna, that's the part you can see, is shaped to collect sound waves and funnel them into your ear canal. The shape isn't random. Those curves and ridges help you figure out whether sounds are coming from in front of you or behind you, above you or below you. Your brain uses the subtle differences in how sound hits those ridges to determine the direction. Sound waves travel down your ear canal and hit your eardrum, a thin membrane stretched across the end of the canal. Your eardrum vibrates in response to sound waves, literally moving back and forth with the pressure changes in the air. Loud sounds make it vibrate more. High-pitched sounds make it vibrate faster. It's incredibly sensitive. It can detect vibrations smaller than the width of an atom. Connected to the inside of your eardrum are 3 tiny bones, the smallest bones in your entire body. They're called the malleus, incus, and stapes, though they're commonly known as the hammer, anvil, and stirrup because of their shapes. These bones are suspended in an air-filled cavity called the middle ear, and they work together as a system of levers, amplifying the vibrations from the eardrum by about 20 times. The stapes, that tiny stirrup bone, connects to another membrane called the oval window, which is the entrance to your inner ear. Your inner ear contains the cochlea, a snail-shaped structure about the size of a pea. Inside the cochlea is a long tube coiled up 2.5 times. If you unrolled it, it would be about 35 millimeters long. This tube is filled with fluid, and running along its length is the organ of Corti, which contains about 16,000 hair cells. These aren't hairs like on your head. They're cells with tiny hair-like projections called stereocilia sticking up from them. When the stapes vibrates against the oval window, it creates waves in the fluid inside the cochlea, and these waves bend the stereocilia. Here's the amazing part. Different hair cells respond to different frequencies of sound. Hair cells at the base of the cochlea, near the oval window, respond to high frequencies. Hair cells at the tip of the spiral respond to low frequencies. So your cochlea is essentially doing a frequency analysis, breaking complex sounds down into their component frequencies. When stereocilia bend, they open ion channels, allowing charged particles to flow into the hair cells. This generates electrical signals that travel along the auditory nerve to your brain. Your auditory nerve contains about 30,000 nerve fibers, each connected to one or more hair cells. Your ears are sensitive to an enormous range of sounds, from a whisper at 20 decibels to a jet engine at 140 decibels. That's a range of about 1 trillion times in terms of sound intensity. You can hear frequencies from about 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz when you're young, though the high-frequency hearing gradually declines as you age. Your skin isn't just a barrier. It's packed with sensors feeding your brain a constant stream of information about the world around you. Right now, You can feel whatever you're lying on. Maybe there's a blanket on you. The air has a certain temperature. All of this is coming from millions of sensory receptors in your skin. You have different types of receptors for different sensations. Mechanoreceptors detect pressure and vibration. Thermoreceptors detect temperature. Nociceptors detect pain. Your fingertips have about 2,500 receptors per square centimeter, more than almost anywhere else on your body. This is why you can feel textures so precisely with your fingers. Your back, on the other hand, has far fewer receptors, which is why it's harder to tell exactly where someone is touching your back. Some receptors adapt quickly. They respond when a sensation starts, but then stop signaling even if the stimulus continues. This is why you stop noticing your clothes after you've been wearing them for a while. Other receptors adapt slowly, continuing to send signals as long as the stimulus is present. Pain receptors don't adapt, which makes sense. Pain is a warning signal, and it's important that it doesn't fade away until the problem is fixed. Touch isn't instantaneous. It takes time for signals to travel from your skin to your brain. Touch a toe, and the signal has to travel about 6 feet to your brain, which takes roughly 40 milliseconds. But your brain does something clever. It backdates the sensation slightly, making it seem like you felt it immediately. Your perception of time is an illusion created by your brain to make sense of the slight delays in sensory processing. Taste is simpler than you might think. Those 10,000 taste buds on your tongue can only detect 5 basic tastes: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. That's it. Everything else you think of as taste is actually smell. When you eat something, aromatic molecules float up the back of your throat and into your nasal cavity, where they're detected by your olfactory receptors. This is why food tastes bland when you have a stuffy nose. You're only getting the basic tastes from your tongue, not the complex aromas from your nose. Your sense of smell is incredibly powerful. While you only have 5 types of taste receptors, you have about 400 types of olfactory receptors. Each one can detect specific molecules and different combinations of receptors. Firing create all the different smells you can detect, possibly over 1 trillion different odors. Smell is also the sense most closely linked to memory. The olfactory bulb, which processes smells, is part of your limbic system, the emotional center of your brain. It's directly connected to the amygdala and hippocampus. This is why certain smells can trigger vivid memories or strong emotions. A whiff of a perfume might transport you back to a specific moment years ago, with an intensity that seeing a photo couldn't match. While your nervous system sends rapid electrical signals, your body has another communication system that works more slowly, but just as powerfully. Your endocrine system. This is your body's chemical messaging system, using hormones to regulate almost everything you do. Hormones are chemical messengers released by glands into your bloodstream. Unlike nerve signals that target specific cells, hormones travel throughout your entire body, but only certain cells respond to specific hormones. It's like broadcasting a radio signal. Only receivers tuned to the right frequency pick it up. Let's start with your pituitary gland, often called the master gland. It's about the size of a pea, sitting at the base of your brain, protected by a little bony cavity. Despite being tiny, the pituitary controls most of your other endocrine glands, telling them when to release their hormones. The pituitary releases growth hormone, which is exactly what it sounds like. It tells your body to grow. Children and teenagers produce lots of growth hormone, especially during sleep. This is why kids need so much sleep, and why there's truth to the saying that you grow in your sleep. Your pituitary also produces prolactin, which stimulates milk production in nursing mothers. It releases ACTH, which signals your adrenal glands to produce cortisol, your stress hormone. It produces TSH, which tells your thyroid to release thyroid hormones. And it releases ADH, which tells your kidneys how much water to retain. This tiny gland is running the show for much of your body's hormonal system. Your thyroid gland wraps around your windpipe like a butterfly. It produces thyroid hormones that regulate your metabolism. Essentially, how fast your cells burn energy. Too much thyroid hormone, and everything speeds up. Your heart races, you lose weight, you feel anxious and jittery. Too little and everything slows down. You gain weight, feel tired and cold, think more slowly. Your thyroid is like the throttle for your body's engine. Behind your thyroid are 4 tiny parathyroid glands, each about the size of a grain of rice. They regulate calcium levels in your blood. Calcium isn't just for bones. It's crucial for muscle contraction, nerve signaling, blood clotting, and dozens of other functions. Your parathyroid glands are constantly monitoring calcium levels and adjusting them to keep everything working properly. Your adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys like little hats. Each gland has 2 parts, the outer cortex and the inner medulla, and they produce different hormones. The cortex produces cortisol, your main stress hormone. Cortisol increases blood sugar, suppresses your immune system, and helps you deal with stress. It follows a daily rhythm, highest in the morning to help you wake up, lowest at night to help you sleep. The adrenal medulla produces adrenaline and noradrenaline, your fight or flight hormones. When you're scared or excited, these hormones flood your system within seconds. Your heart pounds, your pupils dilate, your airways open wider, blood flow shifts to your muscles, your liver releases stored sugar into your blood. Your body is preparing you to either fight or run away. This is an ancient response, evolved to help your ancestors survive encounters with predators, and it's still with you today. Your pancreas is both an endocrine gland and a digestive organ. The endocrine cells, clustered in areas called islets of Langerhans, produce insulin and glucagon. These hormones are the main regulators of your blood sugar. When blood sugar rises after you eat, your pancreas releases insulin, which signals cells throughout your body to absorb sugar from the blood. When blood sugar drops, your pancreas releases glucagon, which tells your liver to release stored sugar. These 2 hormones are constantly balancing each other, keeping your blood sugar in a narrow, healthy range. Your reproductive glands, ovaries in females, testes in males, produce sex hormones. In females, the ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone, which regulate the menstrual cycle, maintain pregnancy, and influence bone density, mood, and many other functions. In males, the testes produce testosterone, which drives the development of male characteristics, maintains muscle mass and bone density, and affects mood and energy levels. Your pineal gland, deep in your brain, produces melatonin. This hormone regulates your sleep-wake cycle, your circadian rhythm. As daylight fades, your pineal gland starts releasing melatonin, making you feel drowsy. Melatonin levels stay high throughout the night and drop in the morning when light hits your eyes. This is your body's internal clock, keeping you synchronized with the day-night cycle. Right now, your melatonin levels are probably rising, making you feel more and more relaxed, more and more ready for sleep. Your cortisol levels are dropping. Your body is shifting into nighttime mode, preparing for rest and restoration. Let's talk about the silent war being fought inside you right now. Your immune system is an army of trillions of cells, defending you against invaders you'll never see. Every second of every day, you're under attack by bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Most of them never make you sick because your immune system destroys them before they can get established. Your immune system has 2 main divisions: innate immunity and adaptive immunity. Innate immunity is your first line of defense, fast but not particularly smart. Adaptive immunity is slower but incredibly specific and has a memory. Your skin is actually part of your immune system. It's not just a physical barrier, it's chemically hostile to most microorganisms. Your skin is slightly acidic, with a pH around 5.5, and most bacteria prefer neutral pH. Your skin also secretes antimicrobial peptides, small proteins that kill bacteria on contact. The bacteria that do live on your skin, and there are trillions of them, are mostly beneficial species that crowd out harmful bacteria, not giving them space to grow. Your mucous membranes, the moist tissues lining your respiratory tract, digestive tract, and other areas, are coated with mucus that traps pathogens. That mucus also contains antibodies, enzymes, and antimicrobial proteins. It's a sticky trap that captures invaders and either kills them or expels them before they can cause problems. Your tears, saliva, and other body fluids contain an enzyme called lysozyme that breaks down bacterial cell walls. This is why your eyes and mouth, despite being constantly exposed to the environment, don't get infected more often. They're constantly bathing in antibacterial fluid. If pathogens get past these barriers and enter your body, they encounter white blood cells. You've got several types, each with a specialized role. Neutrophils are the most abundant, making up about 60% of your white blood cells. They're like the foot soldiers of your immune system, patrolling your blood and tissues, looking for bacteria and fungi to destroy. When they find something foreign, they engulf it and kill it with toxic chemicals. A single neutrophil can kill about 10 to 20 bacteria before it dies. Macrophages are larger cells that patrol your tissues, especially in your lungs, liver, and lymph nodes. Their name literally means big eater, and they can engulf larger targets than neutrophils can. They also play a key role in alerting the adaptive immune system to threats. After a macrophage eats a pathogen, it displays pieces of that pathogen on its surface, like holding up a wanted poster for other immune cells to see. Natural killer cells, or NK cells, patrol your body looking for infected cells or cancer cells. They're called natural killers because they don't need to be activated or trained. They're born ready to kill. When an NK cell finds a compromised cell, it releases proteins that punch holes in the cell's membrane, causing it to self-destruct. This prevents viruses from using your cells to reproduce and stops cancer cells before they can grow into tumors. When tissues are damaged or infected, your immune system triggers inflammation. This is why injuries get red, hot, swollen, and painful. Blood vessels in the area dilate, increasing blood flow. That's the redness and heat. The vessels become leaky, allowing fluid and immune cells to enter the tissue. That's the swelling. Chemical signals make nearby nerves more sensitive. That's the pain. All of this helps fight infection and promote healing, even though it's uncomfortable. Now let's talk about adaptive immunity, your body's smart defense system. While innate immunity responds the same way to all threats, adaptive immunity creates custom weapons for specific pathogens, and it remembers every enemy it's ever encountered. The stars of adaptive immunity are lymphocytes, T cells, and B cells. These cells are made in your bone marrow, but T cells mature in your thymus, a small gland behind your breastbone. That's where the T comes from. B cells mature in your bone marrow. Each B cell and T cell is genetically unique, capable of recognizing one specific molecule. These molecules, called antigens, are usually proteins from bacteria, viruses, or other foreign substances. You have billions of different B cells and T cells, collectively capable of recognizing billions of different antigens. This diversity is created through random genetic recombination, like shuffling a deck of cards. Each cell gets a random combination of genes that determines what antigen it will recognize. Here's how it works. When a pathogen enters your body and a macrophage or other immune cell captures it, that cell displays pieces of the pathogen on its surface. T cells are constantly scanning these displays, and eventually, a T cell that recognizes that specific antigen will find it. It's like having billions of different keys and trying them all until one fits the lock. When a T cell finds its match, it activates and starts dividing rapidly, creating thousands of copies of itself. Some become killer T cells, which hunt down and destroy infected cells. Others become helper T cells, which coordinate the immune response, calling in more immune cells and activating B cells. Activated B cells also start dividing rapidly. Some become plasma cells, which are basically antibody factories. A single plasma cell can produce about 2,000 antibodies per second. These antibodies flood into your bloodstream, binding to the pathogen wherever they find it. Antibodies are Y-shaped proteins, and the tips of the Y are the part that binds to the antigen. When antibodies coat a pathogen, they mark it for destruction. They make it easier for macrophages and neutrophils to find and eat it. They can neutralize viruses, preventing them from infecting cells. They can clump bacteria together, making them easier to clear from your body. Antibodies are incredibly versatile weapons. The first time your body encounters a specific pathogen, this whole process takes about a week. That's why when you catch a cold or flu, you feel sick for several days before you start getting better. Your adaptive immune system is gearing up, creating the specific weapons it needs to fight this particular invader. But here's the amazing part. Some of those T cells and B cells don't become effectors. They become memory cells, long-lived cells that patrol your body for years or even decades, ready to respond if they ever encounter that pathogen again. If you do get infected with the same pathogen a second time, these memory cells activate immediately, producing a massive immune response within hours instead of days. Often, the pathogen is destroyed so quickly that you never even feel sick. This is immunity. This is how vaccines work. They expose you to a harmless version of a pathogen, maybe a dead or weakened version, or just a piece of it, so your body creates memory cells without you having to get sick. Then, if you ever encounter the real pathogen, you're already immune. Your immune system is constantly learning, constantly adapting, constantly updating its memory of threats. It's like a biological hard drive, storing information about every infection you've ever had. Some memory cells can live for your entire lifetime, protecting you from diseases you had as a child. Your lymphatic system is like a parallel circulatory system that you probably don't think about much, but it's working constantly to keep you healthy. Unlike your blood, which is pumped by your heart, lymph moves slowly through its vessels, pushed along by the movement of your muscles and the pulsing of nearby arteries. Lymph is a clear fluid that forms from plasma that leaks out of your blood capillaries into your tissues. Most of this fluid gets reabsorbed into your capillaries, but about 3 liters per day doesn't. That fluid enters lymphatic vessels instead. These vessels are thin-walled tubes that merge and grow larger, eventually dumping the lymph back into your bloodstream near your heart. But before the lymph returns to your blood, it passes through lymph nodes, small, bean-shaped organs scattered throughout your body, especially concentrated in your neck, armpits, and groin. You have about 600 lymph nodes, and each one is packed with immune cells. As lymph filters through a lymph node, macrophages and other immune cells examine everything in it, looking for pathogens, cancer cells, or other threats. If they find something, the lymph node becomes a staging ground for an immune response. B cells and T cells that recognize the threat start dividing rapidly, and the lymph node swells with millions of new immune cells. This is why your lymph nodes get swollen when you're sick. They're working overtime, producing armies of cells to fight the infection. Your spleen, located under your left ribs, is the largest lymphatic organ. It filters your blood the way lymph nodes filter lymph. Blood flowing through your spleen gets examined by millions of immune cells. Old, damaged red blood cells get removed and destroyed. Pathogens in the blood get captured and destroyed. The spleen also stores a reserve of blood cells that can be released in emergencies. Your thymus, behind your breastbone, is where T cells mature and learn to distinguish self from non-self. When T cells are first made, they're tested against your body's own proteins. T cells that react strongly to your own proteins are destroyed. If they weren't, they'd attack your own tissues, causing autoimmune disease. Only T cells that ignore your own proteins, but react to foreign proteins, are allowed to mature and enter circulation. Your thymus is largest during childhood, and gradually shrinks as you age, which is one reason why older people's immune systems are weaker. Your tonsils and adenoids are lymphatic tissue in your throat, standing guard at the entrance to your respiratory and digestive systems. They sample everything you breathe and eat, capturing pathogens before they can get deeper into your body. This is why tonsils get infected easily, especially in children. They're constantly being exposed to pathogens. Peyer's patches are clusters of lymphatic tissue in the wall of your small intestine. They monitor the contents of your gut, keeping tabs on the trillions of bacteria living there and watching for pathogens. Your gut contains about 70% of your immune system, which makes sense when you think about it. Your digestive tract is essentially a tube running through your body that's technically outside it, constantly exposed to the external environment through the food and water you consume. Your kidneys are working right now, filtering your blood, balancing fluids, regulating electrolytes, and removing waste. They're doing all of this quietly, efficiently, about 60 times per hour, every hour of your life. You have 2 kidneys, each about the size of a fist, located on either side of your spine, just below your rib cage. Together, they weigh less than a pound, but they receive about 20% of your heart's output, about 1.2 liters of blood per minute. That's roughly 1,700 liters per day, or about 450 gallons. All of your blood passes through your kidneys for filtering about 40 times per day. Each kidney contains about 1 million nephrons, which are the functional units of the kidney. If you stretched out all the tubules in all your nephrons, they'd extend for about 50 miles. All this tubing is packed into 2 organs the size of your fists. A nephron starts with a glomerulus, a ball of tiny capillaries, surrounded by a cup-shaped structure called Bowman's capsule. Blood pressure forces fluid from the blood through the capillary walls and into the capsule. This fluid, called filtrate, contains water, glucose, amino acids, vitamins, minerals, and waste products. About 180 liters of filtrate are produced per day. That's 47 gallons. But you don't urinate 47 gallons per day. What happens? The filtrate flows through a long, twisted tube, where about 99% of it gets reabsorbed back into your blood. Your kidneys are incredibly efficient recyclers. All the glucose gets reabsorbed. Normally, there's no sugar in your urine unless your blood sugar is too high, as in diabetes. Most of the water gets reabsorbed, and the amount that's reabsorbed varies depending on how hydrated you are. Electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and calcium get reabsorbed in precise amounts to maintain the right concentrations in your blood. What's left after all this reabsorption is urine, water, and dissolved waste products, mainly urea and creatinine. Urea comes from the breakdown of proteins. Creatinine comes from the normal breakdown of muscle tissue. These wastes accumulate in your blood as your cells metabolize, and your kidneys remove them. Without kidneys, these wastes would build up to toxic levels in a matter of days. Your kidneys also regulate your blood pH. Your blood needs to stay at a pH between 7.35 and 7.45, slightly alkaline. Even small deviations from this range can be dangerous. When you metabolize food, especially proteins, you produce acids. Your kidneys remove excess acid by excreting hydrogen ions and reabsorbing bicarbonate. They're constantly fine-tuning your blood chemistry, maintaining precise balances that your cells need to function. Your kidneys produce hormones too. They make erythropoietin, which stimulates your bone marrow to produce red blood cells. This is why people with kidney disease often become anemic. Their kidneys can't produce enough erythropoietin. Your kidneys also produce renin, an enzyme that helps regulate blood pressure. When blood pressure drops, your kidneys release renin, triggering a cascade of reactions that constrict blood vessels and retain sodium and water, raising blood pressure back to normal. Urine flows from your kidneys down 2 tubes called ureters into your bladder. Your bladder is a stretchy muscular sac that can hold about 400–600 milliliters of urine, though you usually feel the urge to urinate when it contains about 200–300 milliliters. The bladder wall contains stretch receptors that send signals to your brain as it fills. When you decide to urinate, muscles in the bladder wall contract while the sphincter muscles at the bottom relax, allowing urine to flow out through the urethra. Let's talk about your muscles, all 650 of them. Even now, as you lie still, hundreds of your muscles are working. Your diaphragm and intercostal muscles are breathing for you. Your heart muscle is beating. Smooth muscles in your digestive tract are moving food along. Tiny muscles in your eyes are making constant micro-adjustments. Muscles throughout your body are maintaining your posture, keeping you from collapsing into a heap. You have 3 types of muscle tissue. Skeletal muscle is what you usually think of as muscle, the muscles attached to your bones that you control consciously. Smooth muscle lines your internal organs and blood vessels, working automatically. Cardiac muscle is found only in your heart, with properties of both skeletal and smooth muscle. Skeletal muscles are connected to bones by tendons, tough cords of collagen that are incredibly strong. Your Achilles tendon, connecting your calf muscle to your heel, can handle forces of about 1,000 pounds before rupturing. Tendons are so strong because they need to be. Your muscles can generate enormous forces. A muscle is made of bundles of muscle fibers, and each fiber is a single, very long cell. Some are over a foot long. These cells are unusual because they have multiple nuclei, sometimes hundreds of them, spread along the length of the fiber. Inside each fiber are thousands of myofibrils, and each myofibril contains the actual machinery of contraction, overlapping filaments of 2 proteins called actin and myosin. When a nerve signal reaches a muscle fiber, it triggers the release of calcium ions stored inside the cell. The calcium binds to proteins on the actin filaments, exposing binding sites. Myosin filaments have little heads that reach out and grab these binding sites. Then, using energy from ATP, the myosin heads pull on the actin, sliding the filaments past each other. This sliding makes the muscle fiber shorter. It contracts. This happens in millions of muscle fibers simultaneously, and they all pull together, creating a coordinated contraction that moves your body. The whole process, from nerve signal to contraction, takes only a few milliseconds. Different muscle fibers have different properties. Type I fibers, or slow twitch fibers, contract slowly, but can keep working for a long time without getting tired. They're packed with mitochondria and are great at using oxygen to generate energy. These fibers are what you use for endurance activities like long-distance running. Type 2 fibers, or fast-twitch fibers, contract quickly and powerfully, but fatigue quickly. They rely more on anaerobic metabolism and are used for sprinting, jumping, and other explosive movements. You're born with a certain ratio of slow-twitch to fast-twitch fibers, which is partly why some people are naturally better at endurance sports, while others excel at sprinting or power sports. Training can modify muscle properties to some extent, but you can't change your basic fiber type ratio. When you exercise, you're creating tiny tears in your muscle fibers. This might sound bad, but it's actually how muscles grow stronger. Your body repairs these tears, and in the process, it builds the fibers back a little bigger and stronger than before. This is called hypertrophy. The soreness you feel a day or two after a hard workout is from this damage and the inflammation that accompanies the repair process. Your muscles need a lot of energy. At rest, your muscles account for about 20% of your body's energy use. During intense exercise, that can jump to 90% or more. Where does this energy come from? First, muscles use ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the energy currency of cells. When a muscle contracts, it breaks down ATP, releasing energy. But muscles only store enough ATP for a few seconds of activity. For any sustained effort, they need to make more ATP. For about the first 10-15 seconds of intense exercise, your muscles use creatine phosphate, a molecule that can quickly regenerate ATP. This is why creatine is a popular supplement among athletes. It increases the amount of creatine phosphate stored in muscles, allowing them to maintain intense effort for slightly longer. For longer efforts, your muscles break down glucose to make ATP. If oxygen is available, this happens through aerobic respiration, which is very efficient, producing 30-32 ATP molecules per glucose molecule. This is why you breathe harder during exercise. Your muscles need oxygen to efficiently generate energy. If you're working so hard that your muscles can't get enough oxygen, like during an all-out sprint, they switch to anaerobic respiration, producing just 2 ATP per glucose, but doing it very quickly. The downside is that anaerobic respiration produces lactic acid as a byproduct. Lactic acid buildup is what causes that burning sensation in your muscles during intense exercise. Your body can clear lactic acid fairly quickly once you slow down, which is why the burning fades when you rest. Muscles work in pairs or groups. When one muscle contracts, its partner relaxes. Your biceps and triceps are a classic example. When your biceps contracts, it bends your elbow and your triceps relaxes. When your triceps contracts, it straightens your elbow and your biceps relaxes. This arrangement allows for smooth, controlled movement. Your largest muscle is the gluteus maximus in your buttocks. It's the main extender of your hip, the muscle that propels you forward when you walk or run. Humans have much larger glutes than other primates because we're specialized for upright walking and running. Your smallest skeletal muscle is the stapedius in your middle ear, less than 1 millimeter long. It stabilizes the stapes bone, preventing it from vibrating too much in response to loud sounds. This is a protective reflex. Without it, loud sounds could damage your inner ear. Your strongest muscle, in terms of force exerted, is your masseter, your jaw muscle. It can generate a bite force of about 200 pounds in molars. Some people can bite even harder. The world record is over 900 pounds. Your jaw muscles are so strong because chewing was crucial for survival for our ancestors, who had tougher diets than we do today. The busiest muscles in your body are your eye muscles. Your eyes make about 100,000 movements per day, constantly scanning, focusing, and tracking. 6 muscles control each eye, working in precise coordination. These muscles are incredibly fast and accurate, able to redirect your gaze to a new target in just 200 milliseconds. Smooth muscle is quite different from skeletal muscle. It's not under conscious control, and it contracts slowly, but can sustain contractions for long periods. Smooth muscle lines your blood vessels, controlling blood flow by constricting or relaxing. It's in the walls of your digestive tract, creating the waves of contraction that move food along. It's in your airways, your bladder, your reproductive organs. Smooth muscle is working constantly, automatically, keeping all your internal systems running. Let's dig deeper into your skeleton. We talked about bones earlier, but there's so much more to discover. Your bones are living organs with their own blood supply, nerves, and constantly renewing tissue. Bones have a complex structure. The outer layer is compact bone, which is dense and hard. Inside is spongy bone, which looks like a honeycomb, with spaces filled with bone marrow. This structure gives bones incredible strength while keeping them relatively light. If your bones were solid all the way through, you'd weigh much more and be less mobile. Compact bone is organized in circular units called osteons. Each osteon has concentric layers of bone tissue around a central canal that contains blood vessels and nerves. The bone cells, called osteocytes, sit in small spaces between the layers, connected to each other by tiny channels. Nutrients and waste products pass through these channels, keeping the bone cells alive and healthy. Your bones are always being remodeled. Cells called osteoclasts break down old bone, creating small pits. Then cells called osteoblasts fill in these pits with new bone. This process happens throughout your skeleton, constantly. About 10% of your skeleton is being remodeled at any given time. This remodeling allows bones to repair microscopic damage, adapt to changing stress patterns, and maintain calcium balance in your blood. Bones store minerals, especially calcium and phosphorus. About 99% of your body's calcium is in your bones. When your blood calcium drops, your bones release calcium. When blood calcium is high, your bones absorb the excess. Your skeleton is like a mineral bank, making deposits and withdrawals to keep your blood chemistry stable. Bone marrow comes in 2 types. Red bone marrow produces blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. It's found in flat bones like your pelvis, sternum, and ribs, and in the ends of long bones like your femur and humerus. Yellow bone marrow is mostly fat cells and is found in the shafts of long bones. In emergencies, yellow marrow can convert back to red marrow to produce more blood cells. Your joints are where bones meet, and they're engineering marvels. Most joints are synovial joints, which allow for a wide range of motion. The ends of the bones are covered with articular cartilage, a smooth, slippery material that reduces friction. The joint is enclosed in a capsule lined with a synovial membrane that produces synovial fluid, which lubricates the joint. Synovial fluid is so effective that it reduces friction more than ice sliding on ice. Ligaments connect bones to each other, holding joints together. Unlike tendons, which connect muscles to bones, ligaments connect bones to bones. They're made of dense collagen fibers arranged in parallel, giving them tensile strength. Ligaments can stretch slightly to allow joint movement, but they're not very elastic. If stretched too far, they can tear, which is what happens when you sprain a joint. Your spine is an incredible structure, 33 vertebrae stacked on top of each other, creating a flexible column that supports your entire upper body. Between most vertebrae are intervertebral discs, thick pads of cartilage that act as shock absorbers. Each disc has a tough outer layer and a gel-like inner core. These discs allow your spine to bend and flex while cushioning the vertebrae from impact. Your spine has curves. Your neck curves forward, your upper back curves backward, your lower back curves forward, and your sacrum curves backward. These curves aren't flaws, they're features. They increase your spine's strength and flexibility, and help absorb shock when you walk or run. A straight spine would be weaker and more prone to injury. Cartilage is fascinating stuff. It's tougher than any fabric we can manufacture, slippery enough to reduce friction to nearly zero, yet flexible enough to absorb tremendous shock. And it does all this without any blood supply. Cartilage cells, called chondrocytes, Get nutrients by diffusion from surrounding tissues. This is why cartilage heals slowly when damaged. Without a blood supply, it can't easily bring in the cells and nutrients needed for repair. Different joints allow different types of movement. Ball and socket joints, like your shoulder and hip, allow movement in all directions. Your shoulder is the most mobile joint in your body, capable of rotating through a full circle. This mobility comes at a cost. The shoulder is also one of the most easily dislocated joints. Hinge joints, like your elbow and knee, allow movement in only one plane, like a door hinge. Your knee is the largest joint in your body, and it's under tremendous stress. When you walk, your knees bear forces of about 3 to 4 times your body weight. When you run or jump, that can increase to 10 times your body weight or more. The cartilage and ligaments in your knee are constantly working to absorb and distribute these forces. Your knee also has additional structures to help with this stress. The menisci are 2 C-shaped pieces of cartilage that sit between your femur and tibia, acting as extra shock absorbers and helping to stabilize the joint. Many athletes tear their menisci, which is why you hear about meniscus surgeries fairly often. Pivot joints allow rotation. Your neck has pivot joints that let you turn your head side to side and tilt it. The joint between your first and second cervical vertebrae allows you to shake your head no. Without this joint, you'd have to turn your entire body to look to the side. Saddle joints, like the one at the base of your thumb, allow movement in 2 planes. This joint is what makes human hands so dexterous. Your thumb can move toward your palm to grip objects. This is called opposition, and it is one of the key features that separates humans from most other animals. The ability to grip and manipulate objects with precision is fundamental to human tool use, and, arguably, to the development of human civilization. Some joints don't move at all. The bones of your skull are connected by fibrous joints that allow no movement. These joints, called sutures, look like jagged lines on the skull. In babies, these sutures haven't fully formed yet, leaving soft spots called fontanelles. This allows the skull bones to compress slightly during birth, and also allows the skull to expand as the brain grows during infancy. The fontanelles gradually close during the first year or 2 of life. As you age, your joints experience wear and tear. The cartilage can become thinner and rougher. The synovial fluid may decrease in volume or change in composition. Ligaments may become stiffer. This is why older people often experience joint pain and stiffness. Osteoarthritis, the wearing away of joint cartilage, is one of the most common age-related conditions affecting millions of people. But joints aren't passive structures. They respond to how you use them. Regular movement keeps joints healthy by promoting the production of synovial fluid and maintaining the health of the cartilage. This is why gentle exercise is often recommended for people with arthritis. While rest might seem logical, appropriate movement actually helps keep joints functioning better. Your liver is extraordinary. It's the largest internal organ, weighing about 3 pounds, and it performs over 500 different functions. Right now, as you rest, your liver is working on hundreds of different tasks simultaneously. The liver sits in your upper right abdomen, just below your diaphragm. It's divided into 2 main lobes, and it receives blood from 2 sources. The hepatic artery brings oxygen-rich blood from the heart. The portal vein brings nutrient-rich blood from the digestive tract. About 25% of your heart's output flows through your liver every minute. That's about 1.4 liters per minute. One of the liver's main jobs is to process nutrients absorbed from your intestines. When you eat a meal, the nutrients go from your intestines into the bloodstream, which flows directly to your liver before going anywhere else. This is called first-pass metabolism, and it allows your liver to regulate what enters your general circulation. Your liver processes carbohydrates, storing excess glucose as glycogen, and releasing it when blood sugar drops. An adult liver can store about 100 to 120 grams of glycogen, enough to maintain blood sugar for about 12 to 124 hours of fasting. When glycogen stores are full, your liver converts excess glucose into fat. Your liver processes proteins, breaking down amino acids from digested proteins and using them to build new proteins your body needs. It makes most of the proteins in your blood plasma, including albumin, which maintains blood volume and pressure, and clotting factors, which allow your blood to clot when you're injured. Your liver processes fats, producing cholesterol and breaking down fatty acids for energy. Despite cholesterol's bad reputation, you need it. It's essential for making cell membranes, hormones, and vitamin D. Your liver makes about 80% of your cholesterol. Only 20% comes from your diet. The liver produces bile, a greenish-yellow fluid stored in your gallbladder. When you eat fatty foods, your gallbladder releases bile into your small intestine. Bile contains bile salts that emulsify fats, breaking them into tiny droplets that enzymes can attack. Without bile, you couldn't digest or absorb fats properly. Your liver is your body's main detoxification center. It processes drugs, alcohol, and other potentially harmful substances, converting them into forms that can be excreted in urine or feces. Liver cells contain enzymes that chemically modify these substances, usually making them more water-soluble so they're easier to eliminate. When you drink alcohol, your liver breaks it down at a fairly constant rate, about 1 standard drink per hour. If you drink faster than your liver can process the alcohol, it accumulates in your blood, affecting your brain and other organs. This is why drinking too much too fast is dangerous. Your liver can't keep up. Your liver breaks down old red blood cells, recycling their components. The iron from hemoglobin gets saved and reused. The rest gets converted to bilirubin, which is excreted in bile. Bilirubin is what gives bile its color, and it's also what makes feces brown. If your liver isn't working properly and bilirubin builds up in your blood, your skin and eyes turn yellow. This is jaundice. The liver stores vitamins and minerals, including vitamins A, D, E, K, and B12, as well as iron and copper. It can store several years' worth of vitamin B12 and enough vitamin A to last months. This storage capacity protects you from short-term dietary deficiencies. Remarkably, your liver can regenerate. If part of it is removed or damaged, the remaining tissue can grow back to nearly full size within a few months. This is why living liver donation is possible. A person can donate part of their liver to someone who needs a transplant, and both the donor's remaining liver and the recipient's transplanted portion will grow to functional size. We touched on the kidneys earlier, but let's go deeper because they're doing something truly remarkable. Each of your nephrons is a masterpiece of biological engineering, precisely controlling the composition of your blood. The glomerulus, that ball of capillaries at the start of each nephron, has a specialized filtration membrane. It allows water and small molecules to pass through while blocking blood cells and proteins. This filtration is size selective, but it's also charge selective. The membrane has a negative charge, which repels negatively charged proteins, keeping them in the blood. After filtration, the fluid enters the proximal tubule, a twisted section of the nephron where most reabsorption happens. About 65% of the filtered sodium and water get reabsorbed here. The cells lining this tubule are packed with mitochondria and have a brush border of microvilli on the surface facing the tubular lumen, giving them enormous surface area for reabsorption. These cells use active transport to move sodium from the filtrate back into the blood, and water follows the sodium osmotically. Glucose, amino acids, and other valuable nutrients are also actively transported back into the blood. The cells here are working constantly, using massive amounts of energy to reclaim these substances. The loop of Henle is a hairpin-shaped section that dips down into the medulla of the kidney and then comes back up. This loop creates a concentration gradient in the surrounding tissue, which allows the kidney to produce concentrated urine when needed. The loop of Henle is why mammals and birds can live in dry environments. It allows us to conserve water by producing urine that's more concentrated than our blood. The distal tubule and collecting duct are where fine adjustments happen. Hormones regulate the activity of these segments. Aldosterone, from your adrenal glands, increases sodium reabsorption here. Antidiuretic hormone, or ADH, from your pituitary gland, increases water reabsorption. When you're dehydrated, ADH levels rise, and your kidneys reabsorb more water, producing concentrated, dark urine. When you're well hydrated, ADH levels drop, and your kidneys excrete more water, producing dilute, pale urine. Your kidneys also secrete substances into the filtrate. This is how they get rid of certain drugs and waste products that weren't filtered at the glomerulus. Some drugs are actively transported from the blood into the tubule fluid, ensuring they're excreted efficiently. Blood pressure in the glomerulus is critical for filtration. If it drops too low, filtration stops, and waste products accumulate in the blood. Your kidneys have a built-in mechanism to maintain glomerular pressure. When blood pressure drops, cells in the wall of the afferent arteriole, the vessel bringing blood to the glomerulus, sense it and release renin. This starts a cascade that ultimately raises blood pressure. The renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system is one of your body's main blood pressure regulators. Renin converts a protein in your blood to angiotensin I, which gets converted to angiotensin II, a powerful vasoconstrictor. Angiotensin II narrows blood vessels, raising blood pressure. It also stimulates the release of aldosterone, which makes your kidneys retain sodium and water, increasing blood volume and pressure. Your pancreas is tucked behind your stomach, about 6 inches long, and it's really 2 organs in one. The exocrine pancreas produces digestive enzymes. The endocrine pancreas produces hormones, especially insulin and glucagon, which regulate your blood sugar. Every cell in your body needs glucose for energy, but glucose can't just float around freely in your blood at any concentration. Too little, and your cells starve, especially your brain cells, which rely almost exclusively on glucose. Too much, and the glucose damages blood vessels and tissues. Your pancreas keeps blood glucose in a narrow range, typically between 70 and 100 ml/dL when fasting. When you eat, glucose from digested carbohydrates enters your bloodstream, and blood sugar rises. Beta cells in your pancreas detect this rise and release insulin. Insulin is like a key that unlocks your cells, allowing them to absorb glucose from the blood. Muscle cells and fat cells are especially responsive to insulin. Within your cells, glucose is either used immediately for energy or stored, as glycogen in muscles and liver, or as triglycerides in fat tissue. As your cells absorb glucose, blood sugar drops back to normal. If you haven't eaten for a while, and blood sugar starts dropping too low, alpha cells in your pancreas release glucagon. Glucagon signals your liver to break down glycogen and release glucose into the blood. It also promotes the breakdown of fat and protein to make new glucose if glycogen stores are depleted. This process, called gluconeogenesis, ensures your blood sugar never drops too low. Insulin and glucagon are antagonistic. They have opposite effects, but work together to maintain balance. After a meal, insulin dominates, storing excess nutrients. Between meals, glucagon dominates, mobilizing stored nutrients. This back and forth happens throughout the day and night, keeping your blood sugar remarkably stable. In type 1 diabetes, the immune system destroys the beta cells, and the pancreas can't produce insulin. Without insulin, cells can't absorb glucose, so blood sugar rises to dangerous levels while cells starve. People with type 1 diabetes need to inject insulin to survive. Type 2 diabetes is different. The pancreas still produces insulin, but cells become resistant to it. The key no longer works as well to unlock the cells. The pancreas tries to compensate by producing more insulin, but eventually it can't keep up, and blood sugar rises. Type 2 diabetes is closely linked to obesity and inactivity, and it can often be managed with diet, exercise, and oral medications. Your metabolism, the sum of all chemical reactions in your body, is influenced by many factors. Thyroid hormones increase your metabolic rate. Growth hormone, cortisol, and adrenaline affect how your body uses glucose, fat, and protein. Body temperature, activity level, age, and genetics all play roles. Basal metabolic rate, or BMR, is the energy your body uses at rest to maintain basic functions: breathing, circulating blood, maintaining body temperature, growing and repairing cells. For most people, BMR accounts for 60 to 75% of total daily energy expenditure. The rest comes from physical activity and the energy used to digest and process food. Let's talk about the reproductive system, the system responsible for creating new life. This system is unique because it's the only one that's not necessary for individual survival, yet it's essential for the survival of the species. In males, the testes produce sperm and testosterone. The testes develop in the abdomen during fetal development, but descend into the scrotum before birth. The scrotum keeps the testes at a temperature slightly cooler than body temperature, about 94 graden, instead of 98.6 graden, because sperm production requires this lower temperature. Inside each testis are hundreds of tightly coiled seminiferous tubules where sperm are made. Sperm production, or spermatogenesis, takes about 74 days. It starts at puberty and continues throughout life, though production decreases with age. A healthy adult male produces about 1,500 sperm per second. That's roughly 130 million per day. Sperm cells are among the smallest cells in the body. Each has a head containing DNA, a midpiece packed with mitochondria to provide energy, and a tail that whips back and forth to propel the sperm forward. Mature sperm are stored in the epididymis, a coiled tube about 20 feet long if stretched out, though it's compressed into a structure only about 1.5 inches long. Testosterone, produced by cells between the seminiferous tubules, is responsible for male characteristics: deeper voice, facial and body hair, increased muscle mass, and sex drive. Testosterone levels fluctuate throughout the day, typically highest in the morning and lowest at night. They also vary throughout life, peaking in the late teens and early 20s and gradually declining with age. In females, the ovaries produce eggs and the hormones estrogen and progesterone. Unlike males, who continuously produce new sperm, females are born with all the eggs they'll ever have. About 1:2 million at birth, though this number decreases to about 400,000 by puberty. Only about 400-500 of these eggs will ever mature and be released during a woman's reproductive years. Each month during the reproductive years, one egg usually matures and is released from an ovary in a process called ovulation. The egg is swept into a fallopian tube, where it can be fertilized by sperm. If fertilization occurs, the fertilized egg travels down the fallopian tube to the uterus, a journey that takes about 5 to 7 days. Along the way, it divides repeatedly, forming a ball of cells called a blastocyst. The uterus is a muscular organ about the size of a pear. Its inner lining, the endometrium, thickens each month in preparation for a possible pregnancy. If the blastocyst implants in the endometrium, pregnancy begins. The placenta forms, connecting the developing fetus to the mother's blood supply, allowing nutrients and oxygen to reach the fetus and waste products to be removed. If fertilization doesn't occur, the thickened endometrium is shed during menstruation. This cycle, controlled by changing levels of hormones from the ovaries and pituitary gland, typically repeats about every 28 days, though cycle length varies among women. During pregnancy, a woman's body undergoes remarkable changes. Blood volume increases by about 50% to support the growing fetus. The uterus expands from the size of a pear to a much larger size capable of containing a full-term baby, placenta, and amniotic fluid. Breasts develop, preparing to produce milk. Hormones alter nearly every system in the body to support the pregnancy. Every person starts as a single cell, a fertilized egg about the size of the period at the end of this sentence. That single cell contains all the genetic information needed to build an entire human being. Over the next 9 months, through billions of cell divisions and an incredibly complex process of development, that single cell becomes a baby with trillions of cells organized into tissues, organs, and systems. The first few cell divisions produce cells that are all identical and totipotent, capable of becoming any type of cell. But soon, cells begin to differentiate, taking on specialized identities. Some become ectoderm, which will form skin and nervous tissue. Some become mesoderm, which will form muscles, bones, and circulatory system. Some become endoderm, which will form the digestive tract and lungs. This differentiation happens through changes in gene expression. Every cell contains the same DNA, the same genes. What makes a muscle cell different from a nerve cell isn't what genes it has, but which genes are turned on or off. Chemical modifications to DNA and to the histone proteins that package DNA control gene expression, turning genes on or off in specific patterns that determine what kind of cell each one becomes. Cells migrate to specific locations in the developing embryo, guided by chemical signals. Tissues fold and bend, forming tubes and chambers that will become organs. The heart starts beating at about 3 weeks after conception, when the embryo is only about 2 millimeters long. At this point, the heart is just a simple tube, but it's already pumping blood. By 8 weeks, all major organ systems have formed, though they're still immature. The embryo is now called a fetus. Over the remaining months of pregnancy, organs grow and mature, and the fetus gains size and weight. The brain develops rapidly, adding millions of neurons. By birth, a baby's brain contains about 100 billion neurons, roughly all the neurons it will ever have, though the connections between them will continue developing for years. Birth is triggered by a complex interplay of hormones from both the fetus and mother. Contractions of the uterus push the baby through the birth canal. The baby's skull bones can overlap slightly during birth, allowing the head to compress enough to fit through the birth canal. After birth, these bones gradually shift back to their normal positions. The transition from fetus to newborn is one of the most dramatic changes in human life. The baby takes its first breath, inflating lungs that have been filled with fluid. The circulatory system reorganizes. Structures that shunted blood away from the non-functional fetal lungs close, and blood begins flowing through the lungs to pick up oxygen. The digestive system, which hasn't processed any food during fetal development, now must begin digesting and absorbing nutrients from milk. Childhood is a period of rapid growth and development. A newborn's brain is about 25% of its adult size. By age 2, it's 80% of adult size. This growth requires enormous amounts of energy, which is why young children need to eat frequently and sleep so much. Growth hormone, released primarily during deep sleep, drives this growth. Puberty brings another period of rapid change. Sex hormones trigger the development of secondary sexual characteristics. Body hair, breast development in girls, voice deepening, and facial hair in boys. There's a growth spurt, often adding several inches of height in a year. The brain undergoes a major reorganization, particularly in the frontal lobe, the area responsible for judgment and impulse control. Aging is a gradual process of change and decline that affects every system in your body. It's natural, inevitable, and in many ways still mysterious. Scientists still debate why we age at all. At the cellular level, aging involves the accumulation of damage. DNA develops mutations from copying errors, radiation, and chemical damage. Proteins become damaged by oxidation and misfolding. Mitochondria become less efficient. Cells lose their ability to divide and renew tissues. Telomeres, protective caps on the ends of chromosomes, shorten each time a cell divides. After a certain number of divisions, telomeres become so short that the cell can no longer divide. It becomes senescent or dies. This is called the Hayflick limit, and it may be one of the fundamental causes of aging. Senescent cells don't just stop dividing. They actively secrete inflammatory chemicals that damage surrounding tissues. These zombie cells accumulate with age and contribute to many age-related diseases. Some experimental treatments target these cells, clearing them from tissues, and early results suggest this might slow aspects of aging. Free radicals, unstable molecules produced during normal metabolism, damage cells over time. Your body has antioxidant systems to neutralize free radicals, but these systems become less effective with age, allowing damage to accumulate. Different tissues age at different rates. Your immune system begins declining in your 20s, making you more susceptible to infections and cancer as you age. Your skin loses elasticity as collagen and elastin fibers degrade, causing wrinkles. Bones lose density, muscles lose mass and strength. Arteries stiffen, raising blood pressure. Joints wear down. Vision and hearing decline. The brain undergoes changes too. It loses volume, primarily due to shrinkage of neurons and loss of connections between them. Processing speed slows. Memory, especially for recent events, often declines. However, some aspects of cognition, like vocabulary and general knowledge, often remain stable or even improve into old age. But aging isn't just decline. Your body is constantly working to repair and maintain itself. DNA repair mechanisms fix thousands of mutations every day. Damaged proteins get broken down and recycled. Worn-out cells are replaced by new ones through cell division. Your immune system clears away damaged cells and fights off pathogens. The rate of aging varies enormously among individuals, influenced by genetics, lifestyle, and environment. Exercise, good nutrition, adequate sleep, stress management, and social connections all seem to slow the aging process. People who maintain these healthy habits often remain active and sharp well into their 80s and 90s. Some animals age very slowly. Certain tortoises can live for over 150 years. Some fish and sharks may live for centuries. The bowhead whale can live for over 200 years. Studying these long-lived animals is providing clues about the mechanisms of aging and how they might be slowed in humans. Your skin deserves more attention. It's not just a covering. It's a complex organ with multiple layers, each with specialized functions, and it's constantly renewing itself. The outer layer, the epidermis, is about as thick as a sheet of paper on most of your body, though it's thicker on your palms and the soles of your feet. The epidermis is made mostly of cells called keratinocytes, which produce keratin, a tough protein that makes skin waterproof and resistant to damage. Keratinocytes are born in the deepest layer of the epidermis, the basal layer. They divide, and one daughter cell stays in the basal layer while the other begins migrating upward. As they move up, they fill with more and more keratin. By the time they reach the surface, they're dead, flattened, and completely filled with keratin. These dead cells form a protective barrier, then eventually flake off. The journey from birth in the basal layer to shedding at the surface takes about 28 days. Scattered among the keratinocytes are melanocytes, cells that produce melanin, the pigment that gives skin its color. Melanin absorbs ultraviolet radiation from sunlight, protecting deeper skin layers and DNA from damage. People with more melanin have darker skin and better natural protection against UV damage. When you tan, UV exposure stimulates melanocytes to produce more melanin. The dermis, below the epidermis, is much thicker and contains blood vessels, nerves, hair follicles, sweat glands, and sebaceous glands. The dermis is made mostly of collagen and elastin fibers. Collagen provides strength. Elastin provides elasticity. It's what allows skin to stretch and then return to its original shape. Your skin contains several million sweat glands. Eccrine sweat glands are found all over your body and produce the watery sweat that cools you down through evaporation. You have 2 to 4 million eccrine glands, and they can produce up to 10 liters of sweat per day in extreme heat or during intense exercise. Apocrine sweat glands, concentrated in your armpits and groin, produce a thicker secretion. Bacteria on your skin break down this secretion, producing body odor. Sebaceous glands produce sebum, an oily substance that lubricates skin and hair, keeping them from drying out. Sebum also has antimicrobial properties. During puberty, increased hormone levels make sebaceous glands more active, which is why teenagers often have oily skin and acne. Hair grows from follicles in the dermis. Each follicle goes through cycles of growth and rest. The growth phase can last several years, during which the hair grows continuously. Then the follicle enters a resting phase. The hair stops growing, and eventually it falls out. A new hair begins growing in its place. On your scalp, about 90% of follicles are in the growth phase at any time, which is why you have a fairly constant amount of hair, though you shed 50-100 hairs per day. Your skin has an enormous nerve supply. It contains millions of sensory receptors detecting touch, pressure, vibration, temperature, and pain. Different receptors have different properties. Some adapt quickly. They respond when a stimulus starts, but then stop signaling. Others adapt slowly, continuing to signal as long as the stimulus is present. Pacinian corpuscles detect deep pressure and vibration. Meissner's corpuscles detect light touch and are especially dense in your fingertips and lips. Merkel cells detect sustained touch and pressure. Free nerve endings detect temperature and pain. This variety of receptors allows your skin to provide your brain with detailed information about your physical environment. Your body works hard to maintain a constant internal temperature around 98.6 degrees Celsius, or 37 degrees Celsius. This is crucial because enzymes, the proteins that catalyze chemical reactions in your cells, work best at specific temperatures. If your body temperature drops too low or rises too high, these enzymes don't work properly, and cellular processes slow down or speed up in ways that can be dangerous. Your hypothalamus is your body's thermostat. It receives input from temperature sensors in your skin and core, constantly monitoring your temperature. If you're getting too hot, the hypothalamus activates cooling mechanisms. If you're too cold, it activates warming mechanisms. When you're too hot, blood vessels in your skin dilate, bringing more warm blood from your core to the surface where heat can radiate away. You start sweating, and as sweat evaporates, it carries heat away from your skin. Evaporation of sweat is very effective at cooling. It takes a large amount of energy to convert liquid water to water vapor, and this energy comes from your body heat. When you're too cold, blood vessels in your skin constrict, keeping warm blood in your core. Your muscles start to shiver, rapid, small contractions that generate heat as a byproduct. Your metabolism increases, burning more energy and generating more heat. Fever is your body raising its temperature set point in response to infection. When pathogens enter your body, immune cells release chemicals called pyrogens. These pyrogens signal the hypothalamus to raise the temperature set point. Your body then works to reach this new higher temperature, often through shivering. This is why you feel cold and shiver when you're developing a fever, even though your body temperature is rising. The elevated temperature of fever helps fight infection in several ways. It speeds up immune cell activity. Many pathogens grow poorly at higher temperatures. Fever also increases the production of heat shock proteins, which help protect cells from stress. In extreme heat, if your body can't cool itself adequately, heat exhaustion or heat stroke can occur. Heat stroke is life-threatening. The body's temperature regulation fails, and temperature rises to dangerous levels, potentially causing organ damage. In extreme cold, if your body can't generate heat fast enough to compensate for heat loss, hypothermia occurs. As body temperature drops, chemical reactions slow, including those in the brain. Thinking becomes confused, movements become clumsy. Below about 90 degrees, the person may stop shivering as their body's warming mechanisms fail. Without treatment, severe hypothermia is fatal. Your body is about 60% water. A 150-pound person contains about 90 pounds of water. That's roughly 11 gallons. This water isn't just sitting there. It's constantly moving between compartments, carrying nutrients, removing wastes, enabling chemical reactions, maintaining blood pressure, and regulating temperature. About 2/3 of your body water is inside cells, intracellular fluid. The remaining third is outside cells, extracellular fluid. This extracellular fluid includes blood plasma, the fluid between cells, and fluids in body cavities. The distribution of water between these compartments is controlled by osmotic pressure, which depends on the concentration of dissolved substances, especially sodium and potassium. Sodium is concentrated in extracellular fluid, potassium in intracellular fluid. Cells actively pump sodium out and potassium in, maintaining these concentration gradients. Water follows these solutes, moving by osmosis from areas of lower solute concentration to higher solute concentration. Your kidneys are the main regulators of fluid balance. When you're dehydrated, your kidneys conserve water, producing small amounts of concentrated urine. When you're overhydrated, your kidneys excrete excess water, producing large amounts of dilute urine. Thirst is your body's signal that you need more water. Receptors in your hypothalamus detect when blood becomes too concentrated, indicating dehydration. They trigger the sensation of thirst, prompting you to drink. Drinking doesn't immediately relieve thirst, though. It takes time for water to be absorbed from your intestines and dilute your blood. Yet thirst starts to fade within seconds of drinking. Scientists think receptors in your mouth and throat provide early signals that water is coming, allowing thirst to diminish before the water is actually absorbed. Homeostasis is the maintenance of stable internal conditions. Your body is constantly making adjustments to keep temperature, pH, blood pressure, blood sugar, and countless other variables in their optimal ranges. This happens through feedback loops. Negative feedback loops work to oppose changes and maintain stability. When blood sugar rises, insulin is released to bring it back down. When blood sugar falls, glucagon is released to bring it back up. When you get too hot, you sweat to cool down. When you get too cold, you shiver to warm up. These are all negative feedback loops. They work to negate the change and return things to normal. Positive feedback loops are rarer but important. They amplify changes rather than opposing them. Blood clotting is a positive feedback loop. When platelets start forming a clot, they release chemicals that attract more platelets, which release more chemicals, rapidly building the clot until the bleeding stops. Childbirth involves positive feedback. Contractions push the baby against the cervix, which triggers the release of hormones that cause stronger contractions, which push harder against the cervix, continuing until the baby is born. Sleep is still somewhat mysterious. We know we need it. All animals with nervous systems sleep or have sleep-like states. Humans deprived of sleep become impaired in just days and will eventually die without it. But we still don't fully understand all the reasons why sleep is necessary. Your sleep-wake cycle is controlled by your circadian rhythm, an internal biological clock that runs on roughly a 24-hour cycle. This clock is located in a part of your hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Cells here have genes that turn on and off in a cycle, creating rhythms that persist even in constant darkness. Light is the main cue that keeps your circadian clock synchronized with the day-night cycle. Light entering your eyes hits specialized photoreceptor cells in your retina that send signals to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, telling it that it's daytime. This suppresses melatonin production. As evening comes and light fades, melatonin levels rise, making you feel sleepy. Sleep isn't a single uniform state. It has distinct stages with different brain activity patterns. When you first fall asleep, you enter non-REM stage 1, a light sleep where you drift in and out of consciousness. Then you progress to stage 2, a deeper sleep. Then to stage 3, the deepest sleep, also called slow-wave sleep because of the large, slow brainwaves that appear on an EEG. After about 90 minutes, you enter REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. Your eyes move rapidly under your eyelids. Your brain activity looks similar to waking. Your breathing and heart rate become irregular, but your voluntary muscles are paralyzed. This is when most dreaming occurs. After REM, you cycle back through the stages. A typical night includes 4 to 6 cycles through these stages. Different sleep stages serve different functions. Deep, slow-wave sleep seems important for physical restoration and for consolidating certain types of memories. REM sleep seems important for processing emotions and for consolidating procedural memories, how to do things. The lymphatic system, your brain's waste clearance system, works most actively during sleep, clearing out proteins that accumulate during the day. Sleep needs change across the lifespan. Newborns sleep 16 to 18 hours per day, mostly in REM. As you age, you need less sleep, settling to 7 to 9 hours for most adults. Elderly people often sleep less, though they may need just as much sleep as they did when younger. They just have more difficulty maintaining continuous sleep. Sleep deprivation has widespread effects. Cognitive function declines. Attention, memory, and reaction time all suffer. Mood is affected. People become irritable and more emotionally reactive. The immune system weakens. Appetite increases, particularly for high-calorie foods. After just 24 hours without sleep, cognitive impairment is similar to being legally drunk. Chronic sleep deprivation is linked to numerous health problems: obesity, diabetes, heart disease, weakened immunity, mental health issues. Modern life, with artificial light, electronic devices, and work schedules that don't align with natural rhythms, has created widespread chronic sleep deprivation. You're not alone. Right now, trillions of microorganisms are living on and in your body. You have more bacterial cells than human cells, roughly 39 trillion bacteria compared to 30 trillion human cells. You're less than half human by cell count. Most of these microbes live in your large intestine, making up your gut microbiome. Your colon contains about 1 kilogram of bacteria, representing thousands of different species. This community is incredibly complex, with different species occupying different niches, competing and cooperating in ways we're still working to understand. Your gut bacteria aren't just along for the ride. They perform functions your own cells can't. They break down dietary fibers that your digestive enzymes can't handle, producing short-chain fatty acids that your colon cells use for energy. They synthesize vitamins, including vitamin K, and some B vitamins that you then absorb and use. They help train your immune system, teaching it to distinguish harmless organisms from dangerous ones. The composition of your gut microbiome affects your health in ways that go far beyond digestion. Studies have linked microbiome disruption to obesity, diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, allergies, asthma, and even neurological and psychiatric conditions. The gut and brain communicate through the vagus nerve and through chemical signals, a connection called the gut-brain axis. Your gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters, including serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. In fact, most of your body's serotonin is produced in your gut, not your brain. These neurotransmitters influence mood and behavior. Studies in mice have shown that altering the gut microbiome can change behavior, making anxious mice bolder or calm mice more anxious. Your microbiome starts developing at birth. Babies born vaginally acquire bacteria from their mother's birth canal. Babies born by C-section miss this initial inoculation and develop different microbiomes. Breastfeeding also shapes the microbiome differently than formula feeding. These early differences can persist and may influence later health. Diet strongly affects your microbiome. Different bacteria thrive on different nutrients. Eat lots of fiber, and fiber-eating bacteria flourish. Eat mostly processed foods with little fiber, and your microbiome diversity decreases. A diverse microbiome is generally healthier than a less diverse one. Antibiotics profoundly disrupt the microbiome. They don't discriminate between harmful bacteria causing infection and beneficial bacteria in your gut. After a course of antibiotics, your microbiome can take months to recover, and it may never return to its pre-antibiotic state. Some species may be permanently lost. You also have microbiomes on your skin, in your mouth, in your respiratory tract, and in your reproductive tract. Each body site has its own characteristic microbial community, adapted to that environment. Your skin microbiome helps protect against skin infections. Your oral microbiome affects tooth decay and gum disease. We've traveled through your body, from the smallest cells to the largest organs, from the electrical signals racing through your nervous system to the slow chemical messages of your endocrine system, from the constant beating of your heart to the periodic breathing of your lungs. And all of this is happening right now, as you rest, perhaps drifting towards sleep. Your body is a collection of trillions of cells, all working together in remarkable coordination. These cells don't have consciousness or intention, yet they collaborate to create you. A conscious being capable of thought, emotion, creativity, and wonder. You're an emergent property, something greater than the sum of your parts. Every second, your body performs about 37 trillion cellular operations. Your heart beats, your lungs breathe, your neurons fire, your kidneys filter, your liver detoxifies, your immune system patrols, your gut digests. None of this requires your conscious thought. Your body knows what to do. It's been doing it since before you were born, and it will continue until the end. The complexity is staggering. Your DNA, if stretched out, would reach to the sun and back hundreds of times. Your brain contains more connections than there are stars in the galaxy. Your immune system can recognize billions of different pathogens. Your body maintains hundreds of different chemical balances simultaneously, adjusting constantly to keep you alive and functioning. Yet, for all this complexity, your body is also fragile. It can be damaged by injury, disease, toxins, stress. Systems can fail. Balance can be lost. This fragility makes the everyday functioning of your body even more remarkable. Most of the time, everything works. Day after day, year after year, your body maintains itself, repairs itself, adapts to changing conditions. You're also constantly changing. The atoms in your body aren't permanent. They're being replaced continuously through the food you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe. The you that exists today is made of different atoms than the you of a year ago. Yet you remain you. Your patterns persist even as your substance changes. Your body connects you to the larger world. The oxygen you breathe was produced by plants and algae. The carbon in your cells was once part of other living things, and before that, part of the atmosphere. The iron in your blood was forged in ancient stars. You're made of stardust, arranged in an impossibly complex pattern that can look back at the stars and understand its own origin. As you drift off to sleep, your body shifts into restoration mode. Growth hormone rises, damaged tissues repair, memories consolidate. Your brain clears away metabolic waste. Your immune system works on fighting off any pathogens it's encountered. Your body uses this quiet time to maintain and restore itself, preparing you for another day. You are an incredible living system, billions of years of evolution resulting in this moment. You, conscious, aware, existing. Every breath you take, every beat of your heart, every thought in your mind is a small miracle of biology. Rest now. Let your body do what it does best, maintaining this beautiful, complex, remarkable machine that is you. Sleep well. And here we are, at the end of our journey through the landscape of you. We started with a single breath, with the skin you can see and touch, and we traveled deep inside, through blood vessels stretching thousands of miles, past trillions of cells each performing their specialized tasks, into the electric symphony of your brain, where thoughts spark into existence. Think about everything happening inside you right now, in this very moment. Your heart has beaten about 3 billion times in your life, and it's still going, still keeping perfect rhythm. Your lungs have taken about 600 million breaths, pulling oxygen from the air and releasing carbon dioxide in an exchange so efficient, no machine we've built can match it. Your kidneys have filtered thousands of gallons of blood, keeping your internal chemistry in perfect balance. Your brain has fired more electrical signals than we could ever count, creating every thought you've ever had, every memory you hold, every dream you've dreamed. You've walked through your life on bones stronger than steel, moved by muscles that can adapt and grow, protected by skin that constantly renews itself, defended by an immune system that remembers every battle it's ever fought. You've tasted and smelled and touched the world through sensory systems so sophisticated that our most advanced technology still can't replicate them. You've maintained a constant internal temperature, whether you were in winter snow or summer heat, balanced your fluids whether you drank water or coffee, kept your blood sugar stable whether you ate a feast or skipped a meal. Your body has done all of this without you having to think about it, without instruction, without conscious control. It just knows. Billions of years of evolution have fine-tuned these systems, perfected these processes, created this astonishing biological machine that is you. But you're more than just a machine. You're not just chemicals and electrical signals and mechanical processes. Somewhere in the complexity of 86 billion neurons firing in patterns we still don't fully understand, consciousness emerges. You exist. You're aware. You can think about yourself thinking. You can wonder at your own existence. You can feel joy and sadness, love and fear, hope and curiosity. You can create art, solve problems, imagine futures that don't yet exist. Every human who has ever lived has had essentially the same body you have. The same organs, the same systems, the same cellular machinery. Yet each person is unique. Your particular combination of genes, your experiences, your memories, the specific patterns of connections in your brain, these make you unlike anyone who has ever existed or ever will exist. You are utterly unique, yet you're also connected to every other human through this shared biology, this common heritage of being alive. You're also connected to all of life on Earth. The DNA in your cells uses the same genetic code as bacteria, plants, and every animal. The mitochondria in your cells producing energy right now are the descendants of ancient bacteria that merged with other cells billions of years ago. The oxygen you breathe was produced by photosynthetic organisms. You're part of an unbroken chain of life stretching back nearly 4 billion years. As you lie here now, perhaps feeling drowsy, your body is preparing for sleep. Melatonin is rising in your bloodstream. Your core temperature is dropping slightly. Your parasympathetic nervous system is taking over, slowing your heart rate, relaxing your muscles, quieting your mind. Your brain is getting ready to consolidate the memories of today, to clear away cellular waste, to dream. Sleep is one of the great mysteries we explore tonight. We spend a third of our lives asleep, yet we still don't fully understand why. But we know it's essential. Your body needs this time to restore itself, to heal, to process, to prepare for tomorrow. So let it do what it knows how to do. Trust in the billions of years of evolution that created these systems. Trust in your body's wisdom. Tomorrow, when you wake, your body will still be working. Your heart will still be beating. Your lungs will still be breathing. Your brain will still be creating your conscious experience of the world. New blood cells will have been made. Old cells will have been cleared away. Proteins will have been synthesized. Connections in your brain will have been strengthened or weakened based on what you learned and experienced today. Your body is always changing, always adapting, always maintaining itself. It's incredibly resilient, capable of healing from injuries, fighting off infections, adapting to new conditions. It can grow stronger with exercise, can learn new skills, can recover from illness. It's also mortal. Someday, inevitably, these systems will fail. But that's part of what makes being alive precious. This moment, right now, your existence, is a brief and beautiful thing. So, as you drift off to sleep, take a moment to appreciate this body you inhabit. It's carried you through your entire life. It's allowed you to experience the world, to see sunsets and taste strawberries, to hear music and feel the warmth of sun on your skin, to laugh with friends and hold the people you love. It's performed countless miracles every single day without you even noticing. You are approximately 37 trillion cells working in perfect harmony. You are electrical signals and chemical reactions creating thoughts and feelings. You are ancient stardust arranged in a pattern that can contemplate its own existence. You are a temporary collaboration of atoms and molecules that somehow became conscious, became you. You are absolutely extraordinary, and your body knows exactly what to do. Rest now. Let your breath slow. Let your muscles relax. Let your mind quiet. Your body will keep working, keep protecting you, keep maintaining the miracle of your existence. It's been doing this your entire life, and it will continue through the night. Sweet dreams. And thank you for taking this journey through the incredible, beautiful, complex, wonderful universe that is you. Good night.